up, enjoy the ride with Crystal Petry. Consulting, so inspiring.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining me on another episode of 60 Minutes With. I'm your host, Crystal Petry. Today, I'm sitting down with Chelsea Tipton, where we will talk about the importance of music in your life as well as in my life. And we will also find out why Chelsea is a 5%er. So welcome to the podcast, Chelsea.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this and talking to you about music life and the spirit of music and everything. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I remember at a point in time where music was just a priority in education and in lives, but I feel like that's not the case anymore. What do you think?
It really is. I've lived here in Texas for about 14 years, and before that I grew up in North Carolina. But Texas has always had a reputation of having fantastic music programs. Okay. Big concert bands, marching band of course is very big, sports is very big here. And so that's kind of fed the art scene, the music education scene. It's always a struggle around the country for orchestras, which is my area. I'm a clarinetist. That was my main instrument when I was growing up. My dad was a clarinetist. So I came up through the band world, the concert band, marching band world. And when I got to college, I started branching off a little bit more into the orchestral world. The arts are hard. It's hard to, and the thing about marching band is you play in front of 20,000 people.
Yes.
25,000 people.
Yes.
The orchestras, we don't get that type of love, unfortunately. And so it's a little bit harder to get people to embrace it. But there's such a long tradition of orchestral music, goes back hundreds of years. And so there are definitely some wonderful programs here, and it's always a work in progress. We can always look at things and say, back in the day when it was this, but here's where we are, and then where can we take it from here and kind of grow where we're planted. This is where we're starting, so we're going to try to grow from here.
That's a great question. It's something that we'll really talk about later on into the podcast. How can we make music and orchestra and a symphony interesting and wanted by the next generation? So we'll talk about that. But you just recently came back from, let's see here, Northern Michigan in early August. So tell me about that trip.
It was so cool. The temperature the high was 80 degrees, 78 degrees, and it get down to 50 in August. And so
nothing like what we're experiencing now.
Nothing like what we're experiencing right now here in Texas. But I went to this camp when I was the summer before my senior year in high school. It's called Interlochen Center for the Arts. And back then it was an 8-week camp. Now they've moved it down to a 6-week camp. So it's a great honor to be back there. The orchestra that I worked with there was the orchestra I sat in as a clarinetist when I was back in high school. And it's just 3,000 kids coming together, and they do all the arts, dance, creative writing, visual arts, music, choir, all the arts, all these kids coming together, and it's a wonderful experience. And it's wonderful to kind of move from the professional realm of working with professional orchestras, adults, to trying to inspire young people. And they're so open, they're so...
Now, is this high school?
It's a high school.
Okay.
And trying to figure out how to motivate them and how to get them to think not only about music, but I also peppered a lot of the rehearsals with just life lessons that music can teach you. Being on time, having a good attitude, being a good team player, showing up. We say this thing, on time is late, early is on time.
Absolutely.
You have to be, you came to this podcast, you were early because you wanted to be ready and have your routine ready. So it was a wonderful experience, and it also takes me back down memory road, and because that was the place where I decided that I wanted to be a professional musician.
Really?
And I remember the kids from Texas. Back then, I was from this kid from North Carolina. The kids from Texas were so good, and because the music education down here is so strong. So it's interesting that I'm back there teaching, and I live in Texas and make my living here in Texas.
It's full circle for you.
Full circle.
So why do you think at that moment you decided, this is what I want to do with my life?
Environment is important.
It
And
is.
before we started talking on this wonderful podcast, we were talking about just the environments that we grew up in and we were surrounded with. Both my parents are music teachers. Both of them taught it in the black colleges around the country. We moved around and then settled in Greensboro, North Carolina. But having that environment was very important to me. And when I went to Interlochen, being around a whole bunch of kids that were also interested in music and other things in the arts was just stimulating. I came from not a bad music program in my high school years, but I remember the first time I went to All-State Band. I was in 10th grade, I auditioned, I was 10th chair. And so 10th chair in the top band in the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
And I remember this like yesterday. The conductor said, everyone play a concert B flat. So we're going to play the same note. I got goose pimples of how beautiful I thought it sounded, because all of a sudden I was around a whole bunch of kids from around the state who were also as interested in music as I was. And that was, I'm sure it wasn't as good as my memory was, because I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a much better musician now. But back then, just hearing that one note, and everyone knew what buttons to push and how to play it in tune, was just so impactful. And so environment, and creating the right environment, whether it's your home, whether it's your work, whether it's the band or the orchestra, is critical. And I'm realizing that more and more as I get older and older.
Mm-hmm. So how was your upbringing
Yeah.
in North Carolina?
Yeah, we settled in North Carolina when I was 10. And so that's what people say, where are you from? I say, I'm born in Oklahoma,
Okay.
but I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. And my mom still lives there. My dad passed away several years ago, and so I would go there 3 or 4 times a year. It was a great life, great. You know, Greensboro has 5 colleges, 2 HBCUs. My dad came there to be the dean at Bennett College, which is an all-girls black college. And so being around higher education had a tremendous impact. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was just an environment that has made me a lifelong learner and wanting to be in the classroom. And then also, the inverse of that is to teach as well. So Greensboro is my hometown, and I've conducted the Greensboro Symphony a number of times. Just for the first time 2 years ago with Sting, of all people. It was an amazing concert. And to be back in my hometown on this brand new performing arts center with the Greensboro Symphony, which I'd never conducted before, after I've developed this career, was an incredible, one of the important milestone moments for me. So I love Greensboro, and it's about 200,000 people. Wonderful place to grow up.
Now, before, I guess around high school is when you decided, this is what I want to do with my life, I want to be in music. Before then, had you thought of something else that you wanted to do?
Doctor.
You wanted to be a
doctor. Until I took chemistry in high school. It didn't go so well, so I thought, maybe I'll stick with music, you know. But I appreciate the sciences. I appreciate analysis. And as a conductor, we're constantly analyzing music. I went to a conducting workshop earlier this summer, and it was about the main focus was an analysis. How do you analyze the score so you can synthesize the score so you can tell the story of the score? And telling stories, that's been something that's something I've struggled with in my life, you know, just telling stories and reading about stories. So Greensboro was a great part of my story.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. What, I guess I can assume that your mother and father introduced you to music.
Mm-hmm.
And what came of that? How did they do that? Was it, I know here in Texas, they put the footballs and the baseballs in the cribs with the babies.
Yeah.
So was it kind of that experience with you and music?
Yeah. They dragged me to concerts. I didn't want to go. And we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
And so that's why good parenting, good mentorship is important for kids. They dragged me to concerts for a while, and then I started to
Mhm.
Like, oh, this is not so bad. But my dad taught me clarinet when I was fourth grade, and he started me on clarinet. And then I went to Mars Hill Band Camp the summer before my ninth grade year. Yeah, summer before my ninth grade year, and that was a 2-week camp in the hills of North Carolina near Asheville, and that's where. Well, I came back from there, and I went to my dad. I said, "Hey, I think I want to take private clarinet lessons at the university here, University of North Carolina, Greensboro." And he said, "Okay." Now there was this clarinet teacher who would go around to people's houses, kids' houses, and he would teach them private clarinet. He was a graduate student at University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and the students all sounded so good. So I thought in my little ninth grade mind, if he's good, then his teacher must be even better. So I contacted his teacher and asked if I could be a student, and the teacher said, "Well, I don't take high school students." And so I said, "Well, could I come play?" He's like, "Well, come and take a couple of lessons, and we'll see how it goes." So I took a couple of lessons with him, and it went well. It was hard. I had a lot of things wrong with my playing and everything, and he took me on as a student. And so that, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, the environment. So being around a bunch of students at Mars Hill Band Camp who voluntarily wanted to be there, who paid money to be there, was another moment that was very important for my career.
Why didn't you ask your dad to teach you?
You hear this all the time. It's hard to teach your kid. It's hard to teach your kid. You think your parents don't know anything. Now, I didn't think that about my dad.
Right.
But there comes a point where you need outside influence. You know, the Williams sisters, tennis.
Right.
Their dad was very important.
Very.
But there comes a point where we need a coach outside of the family to kind of just verify. You don't want to say it that way, but that's the way it kind of is. But my parents were absolutely the reason I am where I am as far as my career goes. And they've been with me and supported me and guided me all these years. So I'm grateful.
You are
Grateful.
so blessed.
I'm blessed.
Wow.
I got issues, but I'm blessed.
Don't we all? Don't tell anyone.
That's off the record.
Yes.
No.
Now, have you played any other instruments besides the clarinet?
I play a little piano. Wish I listened to my mom. She said, "You need to take piano when I was in high school." And I was like, "I don't need piano. I'm going to be a clarinet player." And I didn't know I was going to be into conducting. And so I started taking lessons my senior year in high school. But it's, just to kind of think and understand it. And I still use it to this day. I use the piano to help me study. But I really wish I had paid more attention to that. I mean, there's lots of things I wish I had done when I was growing up. But piano, wish I played piano. Yeah.
Now, you are a maestro.
Maestro!
Yay! So, what is that?
Well, if I ever open up a restaurant, it'd be the Maestro Bistro. Hey, there you go.
Yes!
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So a maestro. So the word maestro, people think it means master.
Okay.
Maestro means teacher.
Okay.
So in Japan, they might call their conductor sensei, but it really means teacher. And the analogy I give to people when they ask me what does a conductor do, it's kind of like a football coach. We're on the sidelines. We're not making any sound, but we're guiding all the people on the field to work together. We played, a football coach may have played one position, two positions, maybe three positions on the team, but he or she didn't play all the positions. So the question I always get, do I play all the instruments? No, I don't play. I play the clarinet. But I understand how to communicate and leadership works to try to motivate people to buy into my vision of how the music should go. I don't tell them how to do it. We try to come collectively. The pronoun I try never to use is I. I need it louder. I need it softer. No, it's we. Could we try that a little faster? Could we try that? It's about the collective. And, conductors can get into a kind of I'm the center of attention type of mindset. It really should be about us, the community, how we can serve the community. And I really try to keep that as my mission. How can I serve? Because I'm only here for a period of time. What can I do to help impact this community?
How did you become a maestro? Is there a school that you had to go to? Is that a degree plan? How did you become?
Well, my bachelor's degree was at Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, and that's where I majored in clarinet. And then about my sophomore year, I started taking some conducting classes, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize how hard it was. And the hard thing is not so much waving your arms. I could teach anyone to wave their arms. Is when you stop the music in rehearsal, and then what are you going to say to help motivate them? Or to help them to play better together? That's the lifelong journey. And so I got my bachelor's degree from Eastman School of Music. Then I went to Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois, where I majored in conducting there. And I did orchestral and band conducting. From there, I taught for 4 years at Central Michigan University and up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And then I left there to start my doctorate, which I didn't finish. But that was in Cincinnati, and that was the first time I'd heard a professional orchestra. I lived near a professional orchestra. And once I heard that level of playing, then I thought, I can't go back to college teaching. I didn't want to go back to Central Michigan University. And I wanted to pursue working with professional orchestras. And so that was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then, so for the past 23 years, I've been a professional conductor.
Now, I know you stated that leadership is a major component with being a maestro. What are some other qualifications for being a maestro?
Good hearing. You need to be able to hear what is going on. Eye contact is really important. If your head is buried in the music, you're conducting like this all the time. But when you look at people, when you make eye contact with people, that's a different type of connection. Of course, having some physical awareness and being able to lead in that way, but trying to connect with people, trying to connect with the audience is what we are constantly trying to figure out ways to do with the Symphony here, Symphony Southeast Texas. So here I do classical concerts and pops concerts. Up in Connecticut, I'm the principal pops conductor of the New Haven Symphony. I do just pops concerts. So trying to figure out different ways to make the orchestra relevant in today's society. We're playing music from 1850s, 1950s, 1850s, 1750s. How is that relevant to today's society? That's the challenge we have.
Right. How have you figured that out? How to make that relevant for today's generation?
I think the challenge with classical music is it's long. If you listen to a pop piece, it's 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes long. So you can kind of get a sense of like the beginning, middle, and end of the piece. A symphony, a Mahler symphony, let's say a Beethoven symphony can be 50 minutes long. A Mahler symphony by Gustav Mahler could be literally 1 hour and 25 minutes long.
Wow.
So the listener starts at the beginning and they're like, I'm lost. I don't know where I am in the piece. What I do here with the orchestra and when I guest conduct, mainly here, actually when I'm here, is I'll have the orchestra to play maybe 4 or 5 excerpts from the piece before we play the whole piece. And I'll say, listen for this, this means this is, this particular section is a character, listen to this. And we play those sections so that they have, if they're listening for the first time, they're not overwhelmed by what they're seeing. They have some structure of where they are in the music. And a lot of times, I've even, if it's a quiet or a weird, unusual ending, I'll play just the very last 30 seconds of the piece. This is how it ends. So that when we get to the end, they know that it's the end. So having an understanding of the arc of the piece, if you can give people that, it helps them have a more inspired and a more meaningful experience. And that's what we're trying to create, is an experience for them.
When you're doing that explanation, are you explaining that to the audience in the midst of
the concert?
Really?
Yeah. And so I always talk at concerts, and I don't talk too much because people are there to hear the music. They're there to have the experience of the music. So I try to keep it to 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. I was watching someone do this, at a concert, and he talked for like literally 15 minutes. And he had great stuff to say. And he was doing the excerpt things, a bunch of excerpts. Gets to be a bit much. It's like, okay, let's hear the piece. So I'm constantly trying to figure out that balance. And the audiences here, a lot of times, the pieces may be the first time they've heard the piece. And I know when I go to an art museum, which I'm not an artist, I'll look at a painting, I'm like, what am I looking at? And then someone says, look at these brush strokes here. Check out that frame. Look at how these different shades of green here. And then the visual art starts to come alive for me.
So with the explanation.
With an explanation. So I try to do that for our listeners as well.
As a maestro, does everyone do that? Talk within the... Are you supposed to do that?
It depends. And you kind of read the room. I go to some places, they don't want me to talk. It's fine. You guys go out, conduct. I leave the stage, turn around, bow, leave the stage. Europe, they're not as much into that. I wouldn't do that. I've conducted over there. They're not into that so much, and that's fine. But most communities, they don't mind it. And especially for the Pops concerts, I always talk between those pieces as well. For classical, I think that, and we have to break out of, trying to keep thinking, we have to break out of the formula of what a concert should be. An overture, short overture to start the concert, a concerto, we have a soloist who comes out and plays with the orchestra, intermission, and then a symphony. That's our formula, which we've done for hundreds of years. Can we do something with that? Can we do more with that? Does every concert have to end loud and bombastic? No, it can end quiet and peacefully and inwardly as well. So we're trying to figure out different ways to give presentation.
As a maestro, do you have to sign a contract of some sort with every symphony you are, or is it just kind of a, yes, I want to do this, shake hands and go?
It's a contract. It's a business. And so I try to make sure that the public is aware of that. Because I think people come and see a concert and they think, oh, they're having fun.
Yes.
Everyone's paid. I'm paid. All the musicians are paid. Stagehands are paid. Lighting people are paid. Sound people are paid. Everyone's paid. And that is, that lends itself to a certain level of professionalism. The bigger the budget, so our budget is, I don't think this is a secret, our budget is about $800,000. The Houston Symphony's budget's about $29 million.
Really?
Yes.
Is that fundraising? Is that donations? What
all,
is that?
All of it. So I'll say this, probably ticket sales makes up, for most orchestras, between, let's say, 20 and 30% of your budget. So you got to find money, you got to have donors, you got to have sponsorships from various businesses. And people don't realize that it is a business. All arts, whether it's museum, whether it's dance, people have to be paid because it's a compensation. Now, we have three full-time members of the orchestra, myself, executive director, four, our stage manager, and then the lady who handles our office manager. That everyone else is part-time. So the musicians are part-time, so they have other jobs. And so we have our rehearsals at night, so they go to their work and then come and play for us in the evening. So it's trying to figure out a way to make it work for everyone. It's important.
How did you get here to Southeast Texas? Were you recruited, or did you just apply for it like a normal job with a resume and a job application?
So you apply. There's different locations where you can find where there are openings. So I applied. I was in my 6th year as an assistant conductor with the Toledo Symphony. I was getting tired of that. I mean, it was a grind. It was a great experience being with Toledo, but it was a lot of concerts, and I was burning out. And I really wanted my own orchestra. So I applied here. They cut me immediately.
In Southeast Texas?
Southeast Texas. They were like, no thank you, no thank you. So they went ahead and did the search, and they brought in 4 candidates who stayed for a week, did their auditions and interviews and whatnot. And it got to the end of the season, and they weren't really sure about any of them. They were like, we can maybe live with this person, but maybe we should search another year. Thank goodness. So I applied again, and then that's when I got further. Got the job. I came in. I was the last candidate to come in, and I auditioned, and I thought to myself, I didn't know if I had the job, but I thought I made a good impression. And then they called me a couple of weeks later and offered me the position.
So what in your mind was like, they told me no the first time, I'm gonna apply again?
Yeah. It's a good lesson for life. It's a good metaphor for life. You just don't know. And at the interlocking, I was talking to the students about windows and awareness. And I told them this story. This is an absolutely true story. I was on a plane. Let's see, was I in Toledo yet? I think I was in. Yeah, I was in Toledo. No, it was before Toledo. I was on a plane, and so there's the aisle here, and then there's other seats across the aisle. So I see this lady over there, and I stick in my say, hey, how you doing? She's kind of ignored me. She's like, oh, okay. So I sit down, leave her alone, and I'm just sitting there, and the plane takes off, and I look over at her, and she's looking at resumes of conductors. And so I was like, oh, excuse me, ma'am, you're looking at resumes of conductors. And so she was a fourth hornist in the Florida Orchestra in Tampa, Florida. And she said, yeah, we're looking for an assistant conductor. I was happy to be looking for a job at that time. I was at Savannah with the Savannah Symphony at the time, and that orchestra went out of business. And so I said, well, may I send you my stuff? And so I sent my materials in, and I got to the finals of the auditions. I didn't get the job, but I got to the finals. So the moral of the story is, but if I had been one seat up, one seat over, if she'd been one seat over, I wouldn't have been able to see what she was doing, without looking obvious. But just being aware of your surroundings is something that's extremely important, so that when those windows open, you're ready to move into those positions and take advantage of that.
Wow, that's a great story.
It was a great experience, and we're still friends to this day. She's retired, and I just sent her a note maybe a month ago, and I reminded her of. We always talk about, we're not friends, we're not close friends or anything like that, but that's just a wonderful kind of microcosm of just being aware of your surroundings and being ready, so that preparation meets opportunity. You got to be ready for it.
Yes. So you don't have to get ready. You're always ready. And
it's not easy being always ready, but it's something that we have to do whatever field you're in.
Now I know the Southeast Texas Symphony, their season started in September. So what does a season look like? How long is that? Is it
It's a school year.
Okay.
It's a school year. And that's the easiest metaphor I can give for people. So we start in September. We usually end in April, towards the beginning of April. A lot of orchestras go till May, beginning of May. And our buffet of music that we offer is 4 classical concerts, 2 pops concerts, 1 holiday concert, education concerts, and a 4th of July concert. So basically, we're trying to give a concert a month. That is our basic design. And my goal has been to try to build an orchestra here that can play any piece of music that we put in front of them. So we want the best players we can get. We're so blessed to be so close to Houston. Probably 80% of the orchestra comes in from Houston. And so that's one component, have an orchestra that can play any piece of music that we put in front of them. The harder component is to create a community that can receive any piece of music that we perform for them. And that's through education, that's through youth education, adult education, and building a trust, so that people know that, regardless if you know the composer or you know the pieces of the program, if you come to a Symphony Southeast Texas concert, you're going to have an amazing experience and a meaningful and impactful experience. That's what we want people to believe.
For your symphony season, do you get to pick the music that you play in, like your pop and your 4th of July, your holiday? Do you pick the music exclusively?
It's a team of us. My colleague, Douglas Fair, who's executive director of the orchestra, he's also a musician. In fact, tomorrow morning we're going to be meeting about the 2024-2025 season. We haven't started this season yet. But we try to plan about a year in advance to try to get artists and everything. He brings his ideas. I try very hard. You know, I could say, I want to do this and just kind of push it through. And I've done that before. But usually it's to mixed results. I want him to be as excited about the concerts as I am. And he brings things to the table. He's especially good with pops groups. And if it's something that I feel like I can get behind, then we move forward with it. I think as far as programming goes, one of the best pieces of advice I got was from Gerard Schwartz, who's a very famous conductor who's still alive. I was taking this job. He said, if there's a piece you want to do and people aren't into it, find another piece. Just find another piece.
That simple?
That simple. And because now, every once in a while, I'm like, we really need to do this piece for this reason and everything. But most of the time, I'm like, there's millions of pieces out there. Just find another piece that people can get behind. Because if it does go sideways, ticket sales don't really go. It reflects on you. And sometimes we get blinders on, and I know I get blinders on, and Doug is a good, he's a good outside force to kind of like, well, you're maybe thinking a little too narrow, and trying to keep that wide perspective between what I want it to do, which is a very selfish thing, but I've got to always be thinking about what is best for the community. How can we best serve the community?
And how do you figure that out? How do you figure out which pieces are going to land well or which pieces will not? Is it just from experience and living out here and being among the community?
It's kind of all of those things, but I'll say the most central important part is living here. And when I was in Toledo and I said I was coming to Beaumont to be music director, they're like, you're moving from Toledo to Beaumont? And I said, yeah, because I want to be here in this community and to learn about the people here. There are a lot of conductors. I have some friends who have 5 orchestras, and God bless them. You know, hey, that's their thing, and they do a very good job with it. That's never been my dream or passion to do that. I'd rather have 1 or 2 groups that I work with consistently, and 2 groups to work with, but also 2 communities to learn about. The challenge I have up with my other orchestra that I work with is the New Haven Symphony, is the pops conductor, is I don't live up there. And so I have to rely on the staff. Like, do you think this would land well here? Do you think this would? But I think that's part of leadership, is you don't know everything. And knowing what you don't know can be a very powerful thing, and surrounding yourself with the right people who can help guide you. It's a kabuki dance, you know. It's a funny dance. You're trying to be leading, but you're also listening. And one of the biggest important things, as I said, you asked about tools as a conductor, listening. That's a tool of life. It's a tool of life.
Now, I know that you were saying, one of the things with leadership is being able to, I don't know everything, but saying that vocally and out loud, is that also a major part of leadership as well? Being able to vocally say, I don't know. Because sometimes people consider that a weakness.
Context is important. And I can't say that, I've said that on the podium, when I've been on the podium a few times. But the orchestra wants you to know what you're doing. And so I think there's a difference between knowing everything and knowing what you're doing. Even if you know what you're doing, you don't know everything. And if you're in front of a really established orchestra, I've conducted the Houston Symphony, if I'm doing a piece by Mozart, they've done that piece way more times than I've conducted it probably. And so there's that influence, but you have to go in with a plan. And you can, I make mistakes up there on the podium from time to time. And I'll say, I'm sorry. I'll make a mistake and I say, I'm sorry. Can't do that too many times though. You get a pass 1, maybe 2 times, but you have to be competent, and you have to have people can feel when you know what you're talking about, and when you, as opposed to doing it for the first time. And what's been a blessing about this job is I've had the opportunity to do a lot of first times here, a lot of first time symphonies, concerti, to really hone your skill. You can study all you want. You can go to school as much as you want. But getting in front of people and doing it, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that is an important component. And you'll never feel like you're ready. I do jujitsu. It's one of my passions is martial arts. I've been doing that for 13 years. I've been doing martial arts for about almost 20 years now. And I remember with jiu-jitsu, they have tournaments, and I used to do tournaments. I did a few tournaments, like 3 or 4 tournaments. I was like, not ready yet. I finally realized I'm never going to feel ready. You just got to jump out there and just do it.
Yeah.
And I got crushed. That's okay.
Yeah.
We say there's winning and there's learning. When you tap, you lose and everything. You learn way more than when you win, because you're like, how did my arm get extended like that? How did that happen? And so you have to take chances. And when you take chances, you don't know everything. But you have to have a certain level of competence.
What are the practices like for a symphony? I know you said that they're in the afternoon because the majority of the musicians have daytime jobs. Is it every day that y'all practice? You just practice on the weekends?
So it's a per service orchestra. So we practice the week of our concerts. So if it's a classical concert, we'll do Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night rehearsal, off on Friday because of Friday night football. Okay, big thing.
Really?
Have you heard of football? That's very popular here in Texas.
Is it?
Yes, it's a very big thing. Then we have a Saturday afternoon rehearsal, and then a Saturday night concert. So the cycle in the most macro sense: first rehearsal, play through all the music. Second rehearsal, I pull the music apart. I use the scalpel more, And then the third rehearsal, the Thursday night rehearsal, I'm starting to put big chunks of it together. We're playing big chunks of it back together. Then Saturday, we're again just getting people really comfortable with the wholeness of the pieces. So again, we're just mainly running some things through. I don't push them too hard on Saturday afternoon because I want them to peak. I don't want them to run out of steam at the concert. And there have been a few times it's happened where in the dress rehearsal, the Saturday afternoon rehearsal, I could tell they're starting to wilt. And so I'll start skipping around. I'll just move closer to the end of the piece. Because again, I'm making a guesstimation. If I let them kind of decompress a little bit now and save up their energy, they'll let it land on the concert. So you're trying to pace things. And I try to make the programs hard enough so that I don't want us to sound great by the second rehearsal. I want us to sound really good, but I want things to peak at that concert. And so you're trying to pace things. And there's a lot of psychological components to it, which I thought was about the music. I thought it was about me waving my arms. But it really is about how you can motivate people and get them to reach their peak performance. And for me to reach my peak performance.
Do they practice at home or do they just practice? Okay, so they do. So they get the music beforehand?
And since they're being paid, there's an expectation that you should have listened to this music. You should have some idea of how it should go. And that's the thing that we want that first rehearsal. Because the more prepared they come to that first rehearsal, the deeper we can go into the music. If they're just reading it and for the first time, okay, then we've got to really, just that second rehearsal, we've got to just try to put things together as quickly as possible. But when they come in prepared, that makes a big difference. And technology's playing a big part.
How?
Because when I started here, we would send a copy of the music to every musician through the snail mail. And now we send it through PDFs. They get their music there, and then we have a copy of the music for them on their stand when they get to the rehearsal. Now orchestras send me PDFs of the scores. And so I have a guy here, our librarian, Jamie Strother, who is an amazing person, and he'll take that file and print it up, bind it up for me, so I can use it as a. But when you go to concerts now, you'll see people with their iPads with their music. That's a very big thing. That became very popular, especially during the pandemic, because the string players they're in pairs. They have a stand here and stand there. The person furthest away from the audience turns the pages. All right. Pandemic hits. Now we've got to have social distancing.
Yes.
So everyone's got their own stand. So now you don't have that person to turn the page. So if you have an iPad, you can just use your toe to turn that page or do the swipe thing. So technology is getting into the classical world as well.
Do you think it will go back to the...
No.
Nope.
No. And people have asked me, and I saw this at the workshop that I went to in Kansas City. There were several conductors who had all their scores on an iPad. I can't do it. I like to have the hard copy. I like to feel the texture of the paper. And also, when you're looking at a screen like this, if you have a paper, you have two pages you can look at simultaneously. But with one screen, you can look at one page at a time. Also, posture-wise, when they were trying to rehearse, they kind of would hunch over because they got to look down, as opposed to keeping the posture up and out and everything. So it's not perfect, but it's heading towards that way. Will I go eventually over to that? Maybe I'll try it. Yeah, but it's definitely the direction things are going is towards this technology.
That's how I am with books. I mean, I still prefer to hold my book, feel the pages, smell the pages, as opposed to reading it on an iPad.
Look what you're
or
doing right
Kindle.
now with your cards. I noticed that when we sat down. I thought, is she going to have an iPad? Is she going to use her phone? But you have it handwritten. Not even typed out. It's handwritten. There's something very visceral about writing that question. It's like puts it in a different part of the brain.
It does.
I don't know.
So I'm
New
still
day.
like that.
Still old school.
Still old school.
And what scares me is I'm conducting. What if that iPad turns off?
Yes. Oh, the battery dies.
The battery dies. That's not going to die. That's going to be right there for you.
It is. It's never going to let you down.
It's not going to let you down. But we digress. I apologize.
We both digress.
Yeah.
How many musicians are in the symphony? Or about how many?
It varies between 50 and 70. So it depends on the piece. We had Carmina Burana that ended in last season, this past May. We had probably 80 musicians, 85 musicians on stage, plus the choir, plus the soloists, plus the children's choir. So we had probably close to about 200 people on stage with the choir and the band, and the choir and the orchestra and everything. So, as opposed to our Pops concerts, where we'll have maybe 50 in the orchestra, but they may be amplified.
When everyone is playing, okay, you've stated you have 50 to 60 people, 85, sometimes sounds like maybe 100. Can you hear if one or two people are off with all of those people playing?
I can hear certain things, yeah. And there are different levels. There's levels to everything. Levels to listening. And I have decent ears. I wouldn't say I have great ears, but there are people that I know, someone will play a chord, blap! And they'll say, second clarinet, that should be a G sharp, not a G. Second oboe, you're flat. You need to bring the pitch up. And they have just such incredible acute hearing. And so it's something that I work on every day. I do ear training exercises every day. Only 10 minutes. It's not like it's everything, but it's something you try to work on your weaknesses. So I can hear a lot of things. I can hear when things aren't wrong, and then I have a process to figure out if a chord's out of tune. I have a process to try to figure out how to get that chord in tune or where the problem might be. So we have an approach that we take, and but the better your hearing is, the quicker you can address issues.
I can hear your passion and your love for, seems like all things music. How can you transport that passion and that love to the next generation and the next generation for music?
Yeah.
Have you figured that out?
I think it's having an experience with them. Because I think about how the North Carolina Symphony came to Greensboro when I was in 5th grade, played a concert. We were bused to the Coliseum, and how excited I was about that. And then I was on the bus back to school, trying to act like I wasn't excited about it because I wanted to be cool like the other kids. But that it's okay to appreciate beauty, and I think a lot of it is exposing kids to the arts, and then letting them decide if it resonates with them. It's not going to resonate with everyone. When I was at Interlochen with these very talented kids, I said to them, we're not trying to make music majors out of you, but we're trying to make music appreciators. And music appreciators can be an usher at a symphony concert. A music appreciator can be on the board. A music appreciator can be a donor. Just give $50 a year to your local symphony or your local museum or your local dance company, so that they have that. And I think my parents did a really good job of seeing that it's just not all about performing, but there are other ways you can serve the arts. You don't have to make music your vocation or your profession. You can serve the arts in other ways.
Upon doing some research on you, I see a lot that you say this was musical magic. What does that mean, musical magic?
Well, the music magic moments for me have been when the audience gets it. When the audience, and you can feel when they are, and that doesn't happen a lot. We have concerts, I do a lot of concerts a year. Audience is like, good, yeah, good, I enjoyed that. And they enjoy it, they really do. But when you get the collective, like they're like really into it. I did this concert with the Greensboro Symphony, I think I alluded to it earlier, with Sting. And so I did a tour with Sting back in 2012, a European tour, 12 different countries, 19 different orchestras, and I prepared the orchestras. Then I didn't see him for 10 years or 11 years, and then just this last year, I did a concert with the Greensboro Symphony, and I guess it's 2 years now. And so we did the rehearsal with the symphony. Sting was there, and then just before the concert was about to start, they said Branford Marsalis, who was on one of his albums, lives in Durham, North Carolina, and wants to come to the concert, wants to play a piece with them. And so I said, we're done with rehearsals. You don't need rehearsals. They know each other. He's such an incredible. So, get to the concert. I come out. They're like, welcome to the stage, Chelsea Tipton, hometown kid, Chelsea Tipton. I walk out and bow. People are like, yeah. They're singing, yeah, good. And then, so I start the first piece, Englishman in New York. Out of the left side of the stage comes Sting. Out of the right side of the stage comes Branford. Audience went nuts. That wasn't about me. They went bananas.
As they should.
And that energy was transported throughout the entire concert. They were so into it. And Sting was doing his thing, and singing, Branford had his soprano sax. It was, when you have those moments, that's money. That's what we're trying to create. Because people aren't going to go home with the foamy, we're number one, or with the cup that says, hey, I was at the Sting concert. They're not going to go home with any of that. They can buy souvenirs, but they're not. They're going to come to something, have an experience, and go home and say, wow, I had a great experience. That's what you want, that type of connection, when everyone is into it.
How are you able to continue conducting when you have Sting on the stage with you?
It's a pretty amazing, and you have to be grateful. You have to be present, because this is not going to happen a lot of times. So you don't want to finish the concert and then a week later say, gosh, that was a really great experience. No, be in there and be enjoying it and be present in those moments. I've heard this phrase, there's human beings, there's human doings. I'm a pretty human doing person. Let's do this. Let's do. There are times we just need to just be and just absorb the experience, absorb the moment. And maybe those moments will come again, but maybe they won't. And what I've learned here too, I've had wonderful experiences here. I've had incredible losses here too, personal losses that shook me to my core. And I'm grateful for those losses. From the standpoint, it added value to it changed me in a good way. But those were painful things. And people, we talk about success. And what I didn't understand as a kid, I was like, why is this adult not a happy person, not smiling? They have all these wonderful things. What I didn't see is that to get to wonderful things, you have to have losses. You have to have things that didn't go your way. You have to have people who've left your life. That really impact your life. And that can inform your art too. That informs you as a human being, but it also makes you even feel more as a human. And so much of art should be about getting the audience to feel something, to feel things.
Oh, wow. Yes. You have performed with some amazing people. Sting, Sean Ardoin, Peabo, Bryson. So 2 questions here. Number 1, how do things like that come about? Do they just call and say, we want to perform with you? And what is your musical magic when that happens for you?
Well, there's different types of concerts. Some concerts are the ones that I put together. I have a concept of how a classical concert. There's an artist I might want to work with, a pianist or a violinist I might want to work with. Then I build the concert around what they want to do. And then there's what I call add water and stir programs, where someone like Sting is a good example, or Peabo Bryson. He said, this is our symphonic program, and so they send us the music. We pay them. They send us the music. We get their artists all here, their band, their Mr. Bryson, and then we put everything together in a very short period of time. That's what I call add water and stir. And they want to perform, and so it's a kind of a two-way street. If we have them here, they will bring in an audience. And what I love about Pop's concerts is that people who've never heard the orchestra before often come and hear the orchestra. They're here to see the artist. I get that. But at least they can say, people say, I didn't know we had a symphony in this town. And when I moved here 13 years ago, I've been working here 14 years, I moved here 13 years ago. I was surprised at how many people, they were like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Chelsea Tipton. Like, what do you do here? I'm with the Symphony of Southeast Texas. We have an orchestra? I mean, a town of this size. It's been here for 70 years. They don't even know. And so my mission when I first got here was like just awareness. We got a great orchestra. At that time when I first moved here, it's been here for 58 years. Yeah, something like that. And, getting people excited about music. And I always defer to the artists. Whatever they want to do, I want to support them, even if I don't agree with them. They're the main act, and to be humble like that. And that just one quick thing about leadership again. It's not just about what I want to do. When I say I'm a conductor, people often say, "Oh, you got that wand," and you wave it around and they follow you around. No.
Is that the least of it?
That's part of it. It's definitely part of it, but it's me listening to them and the orchestra, and they're watching me and they're listening to me talk, and it's a circuit, it's a conversation, and a good conversation should be dialogue going both ways. Good leadership should be listening to the people who work with you and work for you and work above you, work beneath you, work on your same level, and trying to three-dimensional chess. You're trying to kind of coordinate all of that. It's not just about me. Follow my stick. Follow this stick. No, you've got to listen and kind of read the room and be in the context of with whom you're working with.
You are a maestro. Is a maestro, a conductor, and a musical director all the same thing? Or are they each like three different roles, three different people?
I'll just go back to the meaning of maestro, the Italian word maestro, which is teacher. And I would never get in front of an orchestra and say, I would with a professional orchestra, I would never say, I'm going to teach you this piece. They would get really upset about that if I treated them. But really that's what we're doing. We're trying to teach them, at least my vision of the piece, my sonic vision of the piece. So you're trying to empower them, and that's why the first rehearsal, I just let them play. There's some people who might get up there and say, I'm gonna go this tempo here, I'm gonna do this there, I want you to do it this way, this way. No, let's see what they bring to the table first, and then start to kind of mold and shape things. So we've all worked for micromanagers. It's not much fun. Let's see how we can empower them. And if maybe the oboe player might want to shape this phrase a way that's not my way, but it's a beautiful way. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't think of that. Let's see if I can change my interpretation of the piece to make that the way that they did it work, as opposed to say, follow this, do it this way, do it. Make this note short, make this note long, make this note clip this note here. Let's see what they bring to the table before we start just trying to change them and make them do it my way. Okay. Our way. It should be our way.
So tell me about the baton. Couple questions here. Do you have to have a baton too? No. Okay. Do you use the same one? Do you get a new one? How's that?
Yeah. So the baton is just an extension of the arm. So it makes the arm, your movements, an additional 12 inches. So that it magnifies your motion. So I can conduct here, and you can kind of get an idea of what, if I have a baton, it's going to amplify those movements. So it's mainly for the people that are far away in front of you, also to the sides, because if I'm conducting, the people from the side just see up and down, but with a baton, it gives them a little bit more of the depth perception when I'm going left and right. So it's just a magnifier. And do I use the same baton? If I'm conducting a small chamber group, I'll use usually a smaller baton or no baton. If it's a big orchestra, like we had the 200 people on stage, I needed a baton because there are people that are far away that need the direction.
Okay. As a maestro, you do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of workshops. Is that part of continuing education for you? Mm-hmm. And like keeping up with the changes of music?
Yeah, and we have blind spots. We have habits, which we don't realize. And it's good to have someone that will call you out on those habits. It's not comfortable, but I'm always a lifelong learner, whether it's music or anything in my life. I want to try to improve myself. I was telling the kids up at Interlochen, we're in the pursuit of excellence, not perfection. There is no perfection. There's no perfect. There will never be a perfect person, the perfect music, perfect tempo. But you have to strive to make it the best that it can be. So striving for excellence is really what we're after. So the baton is just a tool.
Okay.
just as my face is a tool, that's looking at the players, my eyes, my ears, these are all tools that have to work together. Now the brain kind of puts all those tools to work.
If someone wants to be in the symphony, what are the qualifications, I guess, that you would be looking for?
We have auditions each year, and they're usually the week after Labor Day, the week after Labor Day. And we post, this year we have an oboe opening, second trombone, and third trumpet. So there'll be probably between 10 and 15 players for each one of those positions. They have excerpts, they play orchestral excerpts, so portions of a symphony or an overture, and they play a solo, and they get 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes to try to get us to catch our attention, and they'll play, and they play behind a screen, so we can't see who it is, can't see if it's male, female, color, anything like that.
Wow.
And that's a very standard thing for all orchestras. So we try to make it as fair as possible, and then we have a committee of people behind the screen, myself included, and then we discuss. And I always give my opinion the last at the end, because I want to hear their opinion. I don't want to influence people. I want to hear what they have to say about. And usually it just starts off, first I say, let's list our top 3 people. If we're all in agreement of that, done. Usually it's not quite that. Usually it's like 4 people that are kind of in the mix, and then we discuss and then make a decision.
If someone in high school or middle school wants to be in the symphony, is there a pathway for that?
College usually. College needs to major in music and learn about music history, learn about music theory, learn about playing your instrument at a really high level. College is really the best route for that. It's not the only route. And there's a number of musicians who never went to college, both in classical music and in pop music, and they've managed to become very successful in music.
Wow, okay. In November 2022, you performed, if I can use that word, performed at the legendary Apollo Theater.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And that performance was ranked number 3 for top performances in 2022.
Yes, the concert was in April. I think the article and everything came out in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that being ranked? Okay, first of all, let me give a little history on that performance. Let me read this from the review. It says, the May concert of Harlem's famed Apollo Theater was the product of 3 years of pandemic-era brainstorming over the question, how could the New York premiere of a little-known masterpiece about Black people's death and encounters with police seed a program that ultimately celebrated Black life? Tell me about that performance. I got goosebumps just reading about that.
Yeah, the piece they're referring to is called 7 Last Words. I can't think of the name of the composer. I forgot the name of the composer. And it's the 7 last words, and each movement, one movement was Trayvon Martin, each movement was a Black man that had been killed by the police. And one was I Can't Breathe, that was the main text. Really powerful piece. And to do that at the Apollo Theater, and I give the Apollo Theater a lot of credit because they don't do orchestral concerts. That's just not their thing. It's not designed, the stage is not designed for that, but they kind of retrofitted things, and we wanted to do this concert there. And I tell you, the history of the Apollo Theater, of not only music and art and entertainment, but civil rights, made it a very special experience. And those are one of those moments that you want to absorb it. You want to think, wow, I'm in the Apollo Theater. And it was the American Composers Orchestra was the orchestra I was working with there. And we did all the music was by living composers, all different genres, all different types of artists. And it was just a great coming together of people. in a venue that doesn't typically do this type of music. So we were all trying to push the envelope quite a bit. It was so well received. And then afterwards, we did a children's concert. The next 2 days later, we did a children's concert for local kids, and so it's working on different levels. You know, we have the performance for the community, but also what can we give back to the young people?
Now, there are about 1,600 American symphonies in the United States of America, and you are one of 5% that have black maestros. What do you think when you hear a number like that? Why is that number so low?
It should be more. And there's a regiment of young black conductors, men and women, that are coming up, and they're way ahead of where I was at their age, way ahead, both just in training and understanding and rehearsing and working with orchestras. Glenn Alexander, who's from this area, from Port Arthur. He's going to be back here in this area on our holiday concert. He's going to be conducting and playing piano. Phenomenal conductor, and from Port Arthur. He's probably, I think he's in his 20s. It just so there needs to be more, but I think now we're starting to see more coming out of the schools, out of the conservatories, out of the music programs, because we're seeing people of color on the stage, and we're also hearing music. We're seeing soloists of color. We're seeing compositions made by composers of color being presented by orchestras. So I think there's a change that's coming, but it's always going to be a work in progress.
Always. Because you're an African American maestro, do you feel like you are helping increase those numbers, you know, with the representation? If I can see it, I can be it.
Yeah. I do see myself as a role model. And I think to try to help people to see, like I said, beyond what we could possibly imagine. I never in my life thought I would see a black president. It just was out of the realm of possibility.
Correct.
And then Obama came along, seemed like out of nowhere. I mean, obviously he'd been in for a long time, but I hadn't heard of him before. Maybe a year or two before he ran for president, and he was doing lots of things, and so to see that as a possibility. And I remember when he became president, I thought to myself, I literally thought to myself, I could do anything. I thought I was not a child at the time. I was an adult, but it was just something that I couldn't envision that I was seeing, and whether you like him or not, just to see that, it does put in people's minds, regardless of what background you are, that things are possible if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there are less than 2% musicians in symphonies that are African Americans. What do you think we can do to increase that number or increase the draw?
It's the draw. There are organizations, probably the most significant one is the Sphinx organization out of Detroit. They have a competition for African American and Hispanic string students, and then they have fellowship. I mean, it's this huge organization. I've worked with them on a number of projects where they'll have fellowships, internships, where these students will also be placed in professional orchestras. They get to perform with professional orchestras. So seeing those types of programs. There's another program that's called the El Sistema out of Venezuela, where 200,000 kids are playing orchestral music. It can be done, but I think it's through music education, and again, I think it goes back to exposure. Exposing kids to great art and not ghettoizing it. When we have I want black people to come to Peabo Bryson. But I also want you to come see Carmina Burana. I also want you to come see, we're doing Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky on our opening concert in September this year. Come to that. And when I do MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. concerts, I've done a lot of those. I always tell the audience, thank you for being here. And they'll come out for that. And I tell them very specifically and very tactically, the orchestra also plays in March, they play in April, they play in September, they play in October. So come and support the orchestra year round, not just this one concert. So it's a double-edged sword.
How much are the tickets for the orchestra?
Well, I'm not sure because they let me in free.
And they should.
And I hope they continue to let me in free.
And they should.
Yes. I think single tickets are between, let's say, $30 and $50 or so.
Really?
Yeah. And then we have season tickets, which can range, I think, between $150 and $250, depending on where you're seated. That's a package of 6 concerts. I should know this answer.
That's really good.
It's a good deal. It's a really good deal.
Really good.
And you were talking about how many orchestras? Say 1,600 orchestras in the country.
In America.
In America, yeah, in this country. There's maybe, I'm gonna guesstimate, 30 orchestras in this state of Texas, and we have it right here in Beaumont. And so I hope people don't take that for granted. That we have this wonderful orchestra, and you're from Orange.
Yes.
There's no Orange Philharmonic
There is
Orchestra,
or Port Arthur.
or Port Arthur, and so I'm glad our name is the Symphony of Southeast Texas. It used to be the Beaumont Symphony. We should serve the entire community of Port Arthur, Nederland, Viter, Orange, and the entire surrounding area, and that's part of our mission.
Why would you say music is so needed and so important in our lives as adults and as children?
Yeah, aesthetics is important. Beauty is important. And beauty is something that is not as valued. Technology is valued. Engineering is valued. Medicine, certainly, is valued.
Mm-hmm.
But what are those things if we don't have something for our souls to absorb? When I meet a doctor, a medical doctor, I say, "Oh, thank you for your service. You heal people so they can come to our concerts." Yeah, we need both. We need doctors.
Yes.
But we also need that sense of I had an incredible, meaningful experience. We need both those in our lives. We need health. We need to go to the gym so we can feel good physically, so we can go and see great music or great art. Go to the Louvre Museum or go to the Eiffel Tower and have these incredible experiences.
Yes. This year, hip hop turns 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen classical music influencing hip hop or hip hop influencing classical music at all?
Not sure how to answer that. But what I do tell people, because we like to put walls and labels up between what we do, what we listen to, and everything, I always remind people, whether it's hip hop, whether it's gospel, whether it's Baroque music, whether it's French contemporary music, it's still the same 12 notes. It's the same 12 notes.
Is it?
Yes. It's just arranged differently. It's organized differently. It's got different rhythms to it, but it's the same 12 notes. So to be open to the different types of music and not just say I only listen to when people, because I get this drives me crazy. Have you ever been to the? I would say to someone, have you ever been to the symphony? And they're like, no, it's not my type of music. Well, you've never been? No. If you ever listen to classical music? No. Then how do you know? And if you come, now I'm okay with this. Yeah, I've come to the symphony 3 or 4 times. I didn't like it. I'm okay with that. At least you've experienced it. At least you're making that informed decision based on an experience. We don't have to like everything. but give it a chance. And usually when they come to a Symphony Southeast Texas concert, people are surprised at the experience that they have, because I do talk to them. They're not expecting that, but I think it brings the audience onto the stage.
What would you say is your intentions as a maestro?
One of my favorite, we were talking about favorite movies before. One of my favorite television shows from the 70s was Kung Fu. I think that's part of my love for martial arts.
With Bruce Lee?
No, this was with David Carradine.
Oh, yes.
Back in the 70s. And
I'm familiar.
Yeah, and he had his flute, he had his little satchel.
Yes.
Walked through the desert, this is Western, really. Go into a town, he would espouse some wisdom, do a little fighting, and then espouse some more wisdom, like this is why I did this, and you need to think about this. Then he'd put all his stuff back on, walk to the next town.
Yes.
That has stuck with me, and this is as long as I've ever lived anywhere, it's Beaumont, Texas. But before that, I lived 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. Come, spread some wisdom, my thoughts, try to uplift that community, then move on. That's what I want to be. Because it's a temporary thing. There's a beginning, middle, and end. I'm going to eventually leave here. And that's a good reminder for myself. Because sometimes we can think, oh, this orchestra is so great because of me. No, it was here a long time before me. It's going to be here a long time after me. Do what you can, sprinkle a little good dust, and then move on. So that's what I want to do, is try to lift up the community as high as I can, and then move on and let the next person come and take it to the next level. When I start losing my effectiveness here, it's time for me to leave. Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever retire just completely from music? No teaching, no conducting, nothing?
Hard to envision that. But yeah, maybe. I think that's going to be hard for me when it gets to that point. There'll be a time where I should, and I hope I recognize that and can make a graceful exit when the time comes. And then just do shuffleboard. Shuffleboard and jujitsu.
I don't even know how to do shuffleboard.
You know what shuffleboard is? Okay, yeah, you have this stick.
Yeah, I know what it is, but I don't know how to play it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
Well, we are coming to the end of this interview, and you have taught me so much about music and symphony. I'm going to be honest and say I've never gone to a symphony.
Oh.
But I am going to go to one.
Please come.
I want the experience, and I want the immersion of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like anything. There are great nights, there are good nights, there are not so great nights, but those don't happen very often. But I think Beaumont should be proud of this orchestra, and it's an honor for me to be part of this part of the journey of this orchestra. And people, when I say I'm from Texas, Texas has a reputation around the country, good and bad.
Sports mostly, right?
Yeah, it's polarizing. I'm grateful to be here. I'm happy to be here. Texas has been good to me, and this orchestra has been very good to me. And I'm trying to give that back to this community as well. So I do hope that you'll come and see what you think.
Yes. And as I stated, you have convinced me to go to the orchestra and experience it. And I really hope that people that are watching and listening, that you've convinced them to just get outside of your box, try something new, just try it. Then determine if you like it or not.
One of the things people say, always cracks me up, when I say, but they're coming to the orchestra for the first time, they're like, what do I wear? That's a great question. And people think you have to wear fancy clothes. But be comfortable. Just be comfortable. It's not about what you look like or what you wear. It's about enjoying the experience and taking and respecting and enjoying the experience. But it's funny, that's a barrier for people. And hey, God bless them. I understand that. I've thought that. Like, what do I wear to this particular event? What do I wear to this podcast?
Yes.
There's no. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the experience.
And I think probably people think that, I was thinking that, is because when you see it on TV, everyone's black tie and fur coats and...
I think the thing that gets in the way of orchestras is there is an air of elitism.
Yes.
And some orchestras really get off on that. They like that. We're special. That is not our mission with the Symphony of Southeast Texas. And it's not my mission ever with... If you want to come, I don't care who you are. If you want to come to the orchestra, I will get you into the orchestra to watch and to have that experience. We'll figure out a way. It's for everyone. And I've seen where my first orchestra I worked for, which was the Savannah Symphony, they went out of business. But just before they went out of business, they were like late to the city to say, "Hey, help us." And what happened is that they just hadn't cultivated the entire city. And so it taught me that you need a web of support. You need a web. Now, the Savannah Symphony came back as the Savannah Philharmonic, and that wasn't the only thing. It was a very complicated experience.
It normally is.
It's a lot of different things. But one of the things that I've always felt is that the orchestra should be about the entire community, and I think the Savannah Symphony has come back in that realm as well.
Okay, so we're going to do some quick hitters now. We're about to just about say goodbye on the podcast. So first thing that comes to mind here, what is your favorite musical instrument?
Well, the obvious should be clarinet.
Yes.
I love the cello.
Really?
Love the way you play it and you envelop it and the sound of it. Love cello.
What is your favorite movie?
Can I say two?
Sure.
Okay. Will Smith, Independence Day. And what the movie that got me like wow, classical music can be cool. Amadeus.
Okay.
Came out in the 80s, won like 8 Academy Awards. About Mozart's life, Yeah.
Very good. If stranded on an island, what is the one thing you have to have with you?
I would say my computer with internet access. Because then I get some help. Yeah. And it would be entertained. So yeah, if I could get like Wi-Fi on that out, or a satellite link up or something,
Yes, very good.
With my MacBook Pro.
Okay, what is your favorite genre of music?
I'd say the Romantic period. I love the music of Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, Antonin Dvorak, but Tchaikovsky. Music with great Rachmaninoff. Music with great melody, great color, use of color in the orchestra.
And last one, if you can invite 5 people, dead or alive, to dinner, who are you inviting?
5 people. Okay.
Is that a lot or not?
I can do it. Okay. All right. Okay. Mozart, Martin Luther King Jr., Obama. I'm trying to think. I want them to be able to mix and mingle. Mozart is going to be a little tough, but Leonard Bernstein. Big Leonard Bernstein fan.
Who's that?
He's a composer, conductor,
Okay.
and he developed. He was just an amazing musician. 50s, 60s, 70s, in the 80s, he started getting a little bit on the older side. But yeah, Leonard Bernstein, and one more would be. This is way off left field because I think it'll be crazy entertaining. Trump.
No.
You asked me this once, yes. I think because there's a great phrase for like Russian music. They say it's nice to have a bowl of honey with a squirt of mustard. Trump would be that mustard. Just kind of you need that antagonism. And then just watch.
Yeah.
Just watch.
Just sit back and listen.
And listen. Yeah. So those, I don't know, those.
That's a great group.
It's a great group. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great group.
I don't know how Mozart would fit in there, but he's been one that I'd love to see what he'd be like.
Yeah.
Okay.
My very last question is, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast, but you have to help me get them on.
Oh, okay. I think one of my explorations during the pandemic was visual arts,
Okay.
museums. I took up drawing during that period. I took up painting during that period so I could understand visual art. Dr. Stephanie Chadwick, who is the department chair of the art department at Lamar University.
Okay.
And she's taught me a lot about visual art, and she knows how to talk about visual arts. I'm always trying to learn how to talk about music better. And I see people who can talk about art, I always envy them that they can do that so well. That'd be my pick.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tipton, for being on my podcast and educating me and educating my viewers about the importance of music.
It's great fun. Made me think about some things too. So
Excellent.
It's a two-way street.
Excellent. And thank you so much for joining us. You can find this podcast and all of my others on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. Always listen and learn on the go.
Come on, let's go on a journey. Sit back, buckle up, enjoy the ride.